Good morning once again to everyone. My name is Eduardo Hayden. I'm the Small Business Outreach Manager here with the Governor's Office of Small Minority and Women Business Affairs. And I want to welcome everyone today to our TIPS Small Business Webinar Series. That's Training and Insights for Procurement Success. Today's topic will be crafting a compelling capability statement. So once again, just welcome to everyone. We appreciate having you guys here with us today. Now, before I bring in our guest instructor for today, I'm going to go over just some housekeeping things to just kind of get us going. First thing I want to mention real quick is we've activated the live transcription and our closed captioning for you guys. So if you want to use it, you should be able to see a double C at the bottom of your screen, and it'll say show captions, right? So if you hit that, captions should come up for you, and that should help you out. If they're on already, or you turn them on but decide, well, I don't want to do that, I'd like to have them go away, you should see that double C again, and it'll say hide captions. So you just kind of click on that, and they'll go away. In some occasions, if you don't see the double C, you have to go to the area where it says more, M-O-R-E, and there's three dots right above it. If you click on that, that'll open up another menu right above it, and there you'll have caption settings, and it'll allow you to either show captions or hide captions in that space. So again, we've activated it. If it's something that you want to use or a function that you feel is useful for you, you can go ahead and use that. Want to mention real quick, for all of those who registered and are actually here today, we do have a prize drawing. You do have to be in attendance to be able to win this, but our guest today, Target Gov, is offering you all the opportunity to win an edible capability statement along with a professional capability statement review. So again, this is something that you're able to win. What we'll do is we'll do a random drawing. We will reveal who the winners are at the end. There'll be a winner at the end, and we'll reveal that then. But again, the fact that you're here today, you registered and you're actually here, gives you the chance to actually win that. Again, an edible capability statement template, and then along with a professional capability statement review from our partners today, Target Gov. So just keep that in mind. And we thank you all for participating, and good luck to that winner. Again, we'll reveal that at the end today, right before our Q&As, all right? Today we'll have Ms. Allison Tavik, our Director of Communications and Outreach, Ms. Tanita Johnson, one of our Small Business Reserve Compliance Managers, and myself. We'll be working behind the scenes just to make sure we give you guys the best possible experience today. A couple of things for us to consider, to keep in mind. The webinar is being recorded. Now, all attendees are in what we call a listen-only mode, so that just means you're automatically muted and your cameras do remain off for the duration of today's webinar. For all communications, very important, we ask you to please type and submit any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A window. We will be monitoring that Q&A window throughout today. That's how we will communicate back and forth with you guys. The chat function is reserved for us to be able to manage today's webinar. Although on occasion, if I want to send out a reminder, I will send that out to you guys and you'll get it. You just cannot respond back in that manner. We'll engage in a couple of polls today, including an exit poll as part of the presentation. Again, we will reveal that random prize winner. We will then jump into a moderated Q&A session. So during things today, please submit questions to that Q&A window. We will curate, we will put those together, and then we will bring them forward at the end with our guest instructor for today. And then I'll come back at the very end, share some final reminders for you guys. And I just want to let you all know that you will receive a copy of today's slide deck presentation. So we will send out a follow-up email at the very end after today. And then with that, you will get a link to where you can go and actually get a copy of today's slide deck presentation, okay? A little bit about our office real quick before we bring our guest instructor on. If you're not familiar with the Governor's Office of Small Minority and Women Business Affairs, we are here to implement Maryland's 3 socioeconomic procurement programs. It covers over 70 state agencies. We're here to connect you guys, our small minority women and veteran-owned businesses to opportunities in the state contracting arena. We also conduct free small business webinars like what you're seeing today, as well as other stakeholder engagement events throughout the year. And then we also participate in outreach programs across the state. So you may see us out and about, either serving as panelists, presenters, guest instructors, as well in other areas here in the state of Maryland. We also partner with our MBEs to try to resolve any issues that may arise during contract performance. And we do that through our new MBE Ombudsman unit. And then we curate online resources that have federal, state, local levels so that you guys can tap into that for your growth and development. So just keep that in mind. For any more information on that, you can go to our website, gomdsmallbiz.maryland.gov. A little bit about the 3 programs real quick. The MBE program, Minority Business Enterprise, that is a prime and subcontracting opportunities. Again, 70 plus participating agencies. It is race and gender specific, and there is an application-based process to get that certification that then occurs through MDOT's Office of Minority Business Enterprise. Then we have our Veteran Small Business Enterprise Program that's also for prime and subcontracting opportunities. It engages 50 plus participating agencies. It is veteran specific, so we have to be able to verify you as a veteran and the owner of that business. There's an online certification process. It takes place in eMaryland Marketplace Advantage, or EMA. That's our e-procurement platform. And then lastly, the Small Business Reserve Program. That's a prime contracting opportunities program. 60 plus participating agencies. It is race and gender neutral, so we're not looking at those factors. We're looking at the size of your company, primary factor there. And there's an online certification process, again, in eMaryland Marketplace Advantage, or EMA. No cost to obtain any of these. Keep in mind, however, all of them have an annual renewal requirement that applies. So again, you want to learn more about this, you can go to our website, gomdsmallbiz.maryland.gov. A couple other things. If you're interested in doing business, things you want to just keep in mind. Again, EMA or eMaryland Marketplace Advantage, that is our online public bid board. All solicitations that are over 15,000 have to be published in EMA. Any awards over 50,000 also have to be published on EMA. So this is information that you can find in that space. Now, all vendors who are receiving contract awards in the state, very important, you have to be in good standing with the Department of Assessment and Taxation. We also have the Board of Public Works. It's very particular to what we do here in the state of Maryland, but they take a look at contracts over 200,000 and above before a final notice to proceed can be awarded, and you can live stream those particular meetings. They're twice a month. And then we also have MBE, VSBE, and SBR liaisons that are positioned within each state purchasing unit. So again, things for you to keep in mind. Again, you'll get this slide deck, so you don't have to write all this down. You can just get it when you get the copy of the slide deck, but just wanted to go over a few things. Also, we are very important. We make sure that everything is open and transparent, and as such, we will provide these links so that you can take a look at state finance and procurement articles so that you can see what the law states. And then the Code of Maryland Regulations, or COMAR, Title 21, that specifically covers the areas of regulations that are specific to procurement, things that, again, you want to take a look at so that you understand this particular space. Lastly, just understanding your role, whether your role is that as a prime contractor or as a subcontractor, and some of the different things you got to keep in mind as far as what do you need to do as far as pursuing things in those particular roles, such as building relationships with MBEs and veteran or VSBE companies, responding to the solicitations themselves, who is the legal contact at the state purchasing units, as well as, if you're the sub, following up with the prime contractors and their policies and procedures, understanding where do the payments come from as a prime or a sub, things of that nature. Again, this information's there. You can review it more later once you get these slides, but it gives you a sense a little bit about the roles that you can play both as a prime or a subcontractor here in the state of Maryland. All right, so with that, what I'd like to do now is I'd like to bring on our guest instructor for today, Mr. Kion Brantford. He's a senior consultant with Target Gov. They are known really as the ones who created the capability statement, I believe, within a federal space. So they are definitely the experts in this area. So it's a true pleasure to have Kion come on. So Kion, if you can come on with us, that'd be great. And then I'll let him go ahead and introduce himself further and a little more about Target Gov and what they can do for you guys. Kion?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Eduardo, for the kind introduction. Thank you to the governor's office for putting on this webinar series and providing all of this great content and material to businesses in Maryland who want to do business with both the state government and with federal government entities as well. As Eduardo mentioned, my name is Kion Brantford. I am a senior consultant with Target Gov, and now I'm going to share my screen. First, actually, I want to say there's a QR code currently on the screen now that if you want a blank version of a capability statement to complete during our presentation today, you can scan that QR code and put in your email address and you will get a blank version. It'll just have the section headers for a capability statement. And as we walk through the presentation today, you'll be able to complete those headers. And then hopefully you'll walk away with a sort of starter version of what your capability statement can look like in the future. It'll be both on this slide and it'll be on the agenda slide. So I want to give everyone the opportunity to scan that QR code and to put that information in if they like. We'll talk a little bit about Target Gov and what we all do. As Eduardo mentioned, we work with both small, medium, and large businesses who are seeking to do business in the federal marketplace, especially those companies who are looking to grow their revenues in the federal marketplace. I have been with Target Gov for about 4 years now. I started right after, or yeah, right at the end of the pandemic around 2020, at the end of 2020, and I've been there since. I've been a consultant for 3 years. I've been a senior consultant for the past 2 years where I've provided webinars like this, done live presentations for other offices. Actually, in the governor's office, I was at a conference for the State Department of Commerce down at the Gaylord in the National Harbor a few weeks ago. We're giving a presentation as well. So I've done lots of presentations on capability statements and other things. Our clients, we've also invented the FAST process and our Kickstart consulting program. Those are the processes and the systems that we use to help our clients win. And over the past 7 years, our clients have won over $20 billion in federal contracts. And so a lot of the tactics and the strategies that I'm going to recommend to you all today are a lot of the strategies and tactics that those companies have used. And as you can see, to see great success in the federal marketplace. Eduardo mentioned that we created the federal capability statement. And so we know a thing or two about what a great capability statement looks like. And I'm going to hopefully give you a lot of those things today. And we also invented what is now called the Performance Tracker Pro. And if you're interested in hearing more about the Performance Tracker Pro, you can reach out to us at fast@targetgov or via that phone number. As Eduardo mentioned, our contact information will be available for you all, and you all will also be receiving the slide deck. And so if you need to reference back to either this slide or any of the other slides for our contact information, you'll be able to do so there. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. There's that QR code again. So if you didn't get a chance on the title slide to scan that QR code, here you have another opportunity to do so while we go through our agenda for today. So we're going to start at the beginning. We're not going to jump right into building the capability statement. First, we're going to focus in on what types of capability statements are out there. In the federal marketplace, your capability statement is an essential marketing tool for you and your company as you seek to build relationships with the decision makers who are buying your specific products and services. I said that in probably one too many words, but I added all of those words for a lot of very specific reasons. Your capability statements are going to be specific and tailored to the services or the products that the decision makers who you're interested in building relationships with are looking for. You don't want to sell them things that they're not trying to buy. And so we'll talk about different versions of the capability statement that you'll be developing and some other types of capability statements that are specifically unique to the federal marketplace. We'll talk about making good first impressions. That is another key element of your capability statement. It's going to be one of the first things a decision maker sees about your company, one of the first places where they learn about you and your company. Are you making a great first impression? Because you only get one chance. We'll talk about what makes a poor capability statement and how to avoid doing things that will lock you out of new opportunities and lock you out of relationships that can yield you new business in the future, and how to avoid a lot of making any of those mistakes for your capability statement. Once we get through those first 3 bullets, then we'll start talking about the 5 sections of a capability statement. We'll walk through piece by piece and we'll fill out that version of that blank version of the capability statement that you'll get if you scan that QR code, so that you have a template basically to work off of so that you can build your final capability statement in the future. We'll go through some graphic design elements that you may want to be familiar with and aware of, some tips for success. And then, as Eduardo mentioned at the end, we'll be giving away a designed template from Target Gov for you to be able to take all of that great information and to fill in. And then you'll have some one-on-one time with me to be able to go through that capability statement and make sure that everything that's in there are the things that decision makers are looking for when they're reviewing the capability statements for your company. So first things first, what is a capability statement? Capability statements kind of made their name about 7 or 8 years ago now in the federal marketplace. And where they kind of developed was that there were a lack of federal decision makers who were in the federal government to do the amount of procurements that were necessary for them to be able to execute the missions and the visions that they had for each specific agency. And so essentially they were down on manpower, right? They had to screen through hundreds and hundreds of companies really quickly to identify the companies that were best suited to provide the products and services that they needed to achieve their goals. And so they needed a tool. They needed something that companies could provide to a decision maker where they could learn about them really quickly and make a determination on whether or not that company could do what they need. And that's where Target Gov stepped in. We stepped in and we created the federal capability statement that has all of the information necessary for a decision maker to do a very quick analysis, a 1-page analysis of a company to determine whether or not they provide the products or the services that they need to purchase for their agency. And so it's not just any marketing document that you have that describes your company. It's a very specific document that has a lot of very specific purposes, right? And it's a very important document to how federal decision makers evaluate the companies who they see as the competent contractors for them to do business with. And so if you have other marketing documents like slick sheets or sales sheets, project examples, anything like that, those are not your capability statement. And when a decision maker asks you for a capability statement, you don't want to provide them with those marketing materials. When they ask you for a capability statement, they're asking you for a specific document. You want to provide them, and they're going to have certain expectations on what's going to be in that document. You want to provide them with those expectations, those sections that they're expecting to see on your capability statement when they ask you for it, or when you're out marketing or networking with those decision makers at events. They're going to expect to see certain things, and you want to make sure that you have those things in your capability statement. There are a few different types of capability statements that you'll use in the federal marketplace. And I'll specifically describe the one that we're talking about today, and that's described by number 1, the door opener version of your capability statement. So this capability statement, because this is the one that we're going to be building today, that we're going to be talking about today, This is the capability statement that you use for the relationship building process. Eduardo had mentioned right at the end of his introduction that there are certain things that you need to do as a vendor if you want to do business with any, frankly, if you want to do business at all. You're going to need to build relationships with the decision makers who you are selling your services or selling your products to. And it's especially important when doing business with government, both state government, local government, federal government. If you're trying to do business with public entities, then relationship building will be a key part of the marketing that you need to do to be successful. Your capability statement, think of that as the forefront of your marketing to decision makers, especially federal decision makers. That's one of the first things they're going to ask you for. They're going to ask to see your capability statement. What's in it? What are your differentiators? What are your core competencies? Do you do the things that I need at my agency? You use your capability statements to get decision maker meetings. Those are one-on-one meetings that you can have with decision makers at federal agencies. And in each federal agencies, there's a small business office, kind of how the state has the small business office that are hosting these events. So each federal agency also has a small business office like that. They're often called the Offices of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization, and it is a very, very funny acronym, and is pronounced OSDBU, OSDBU. If you are interested in doing business with a particular federal agency, that's one of your first steps. Those people are there and they're dedicated to helping your small business get in front of the decision makers at their agency who are buying your products or buying your services. And so you'll want to take this capability statement that you're going to craft specifically for that agency and specifically for their needs, and you're going to use that capability statement to go get a meeting with that office, to go get a meeting with the people at that agency. During those meetings, they're going to want to hear a few things. They're going to want to hear what you do. They're going to want to hear about what past performance you have. What history do you have doing, providing similar services or providing similar products in the past? They're going to want to know what makes you special. What's different about your company, about your small business that I didn't hear from the other 13 IT companies who I met with over the past 3 weeks. You use that capability statement because it has all of those same sections in your presentation to those decision makers as well. And so it's a multifaceted tool for you. It both gets you in front of the decision makers, and then it helps guide you in what you should present to those decision makers when you actually get in front of them. It guides you into what they're going to want to hear from you and learn about your company in order to feel comfortable in doing business with you. And that's what we're trying to do. We want to make the decision maker feel comfortable in doing business with a small business. Oftentimes they see doing business with small businesses as risky. And having a great capability statement that describes your services in the way that the government describes your services, shows your past performance, shows your differentiators, that will reduce the level of risk that they feel in doing business with you. And that's the key, that's the goal. The second type of capability statement goes on what's called your SBA profile. And so for those of you who are already registered to be federal contractors, you will know about sam.gov. If you are not registered to be a federal contractor yet, the first thing you need to do is you need to go to sam.gov, sam.gov. That is called the System for Award Management. It is the system that the federal government uses for federal procurements for federal contractors. You have to be registered in SAM in order to do business, prime business with the federal government. When you register in SAM, you'll get another profile as well. It's called the Dynamic Small Business Search Profile, DSBS. If you go to connect.sba.gov, you can see the access portal for the Dynamic Small Business Search profile. In that profile, there's also a place for you to upload a capability statement. In that capability statement, you want to give a good overview of the services that you are currently looking to sell to the federal government. And so it will have a few more sections. It'll be a little bit broader in the services that you provide. The third version of your capability statement are specific to the federal space, specific to federal opportunities. So I just mentioned sam.gov. I mentioned that that's the portal where the federal government does their contracting from. That's the place where about 60% of the opportunities that come out from the federal marketplace, that's where about 60% of those opportunities come from. They come out of SAM.gov. There are different types of notices that come out of SAM.gov. There are solicitations that come out of SAM.gov. There are special notices that come out of SAM.gov that announce events and industry days and things like that. And there are also things called sources sought notices and requests for information, RFIs. A sources sought notice is what we call market research in the federal government. In the federal government marketplace, let's say the federal government is looking to buy janitorial services. If I'm the building manager, I go to the contracting officer and I say, I need a company to come in and do janitorial services for my 20,000 square foot building. And then the contracting officer, what they need to do is they need to assess the market. They need to go shopping. They need to identify the small businesses, the large businesses, what companies are out there who can provide this specific set of services for this decision maker who has this 20,000 square foot building, these janitorial services. Those notices are what are called sources sought notices. The government is seeking sources for a particular product or for a particular service. Or they're called requests for information. They're requesting information from industry partners about who can provide these specific types of services. Sometimes when the government's asking companies to respond to those sources sought notices or those requests for information, those RFIs, they will also call those capability statements. Those are not the same as the 2-page or the 1-page capability statement that we're talking about today. Today, we're covering the capability statement that is referenced in number 1 and referenced in number 2. Those are the types of capability statements that we're going to talk about. Number 3 references the answer to a sources sought notice or a request for information. In that case, if the government asks you for that type of sources or for that type of capability statement, do exactly what they say. One way that you'll be able to identify that it's a different type of capability statement is they will give you formatting guidelines. They will tell you that it can be no longer than 7 pages and it must be Times New Roman 11 point font, and that you must answer these 6 questions and provide these 3 pieces of information. That's how you'll know that it's different than the marketing capability statement that you're going to put together to eventually go get a meeting with that decision maker. And so you're still going to use the one that we're talking about today, but the answer to the sources sought notice is different than that of the capability statement that we're talking about today. For your capability statements, first impressions are critical. They are so important for the start of the relationship building process with the decision makers who you're interested in doing business with. And so you want to make sure that you dot all of your I's, you cross all of your T's, you check all of your typos. You don't want the decision maker to get the impression that you are not a professional organization who they would feel comfortable awarding $5 million to. Those are the stakes, if you think about it that way. Those are the stakes with federal contracts, right? A lot of them are large dollar contracts that frankly can be risky if you award it to the wrong company. And they want to know that if they award that contract to you, that you'll be able to provide the products or provide the services detailed in the requirements. First off, be professional. Your email address. If you have a Gmail right now, you want to change that. You want to change your email address to your first name and your last name. Don't do just first name and last name at whatever your website domain is. You want your website domain to match your email address, and you don't want to let the decision makers know that there's only one Mike at the company. If your email address is just Mike at company name, then I know there's only one Mike. That lets me know that you're probably a pretty small business. And so first name, some iteration of first name, last name, first initial, last name, and then at your website domain. As I mentioned, check for typos, use Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word is your friend. If you're going to use pictures, I don't recommend very many pictures, but if you are going to use pictures, avoid using clip art, avoid using stock graphics. If you're going to take a picture, you're going to put it on your capability statement. You want it to be a picture of you, your company, and your people. so that the government decision maker who's reading your capability statement knows you have some infrastructure at the company. You want to niche down. You want to focus in on the services that that particular decision maker is looking for. Sometimes I think about it this way. If I'm looking for IT services, I don't want my IT services company to also be a janitorial services company. I want my IT services company to describe to me the services that they can provide me as the IT company. If I get your capability statement and it says you do IT services and you do janitorial services and you provide financial support services, now I'm confused. Now I don't know what you do. I don't know if you can provide the help desk services that I need now. And so niche down, focus in. If you can detail that you can do my one specific thing, that will satisfy what I need to know about you and your company. And so focus in on what that one need is for that agency, for that decision maker. You also want to know what that is for you and your company. I know it can be very difficult, and I really admire entrepreneurs because you folks are both extremely ambitious and courageous, and you are risk takers. I will say I'm much more risk averse in the decisions that I make in my life. But I really do admire the risky decisions that entrepreneurs are willing to make, and we need folks like that to be able to make those risky decisions and to go out on a limb on a new idea. That's all super important, but you also have to know what you do best. You have to know what you need to focus in on. That's going to yield you the most success in marketing to the decision makers who are buying your services. If you've done 25 jobs in janitorial services, but you've only done 2 jobs in financial services, your focus should be your janitorial services for now. Even if you want to move to the financial services, you can still do that. But when it comes to your niche, when it comes to what you do and what you do best, focus in on what you've done the most of. That's what you have the most experience doing. That's what you can present to a decision maker to make them feel comfortable that you can do what they need done. So know what you do best. Know what makes you and your company special. And we'll talk about differentiators today as well, so that you can describe why you are the best company at what you do. Always, always lead with that. Lead with your expertise. Lead with what makes you special. Lead with what you do. You don't want to get in front of a decision maker and say, "Hi, I'm a woman-owned small business and I would love to do business with your agency." Doing that to a decision maker doesn't really tell them anything about you and the company. It tells them that you are a business and that you have a socioeconomic designation. There are also thousands of other companies who have socioeconomic designations. It's important to market those. Yes, absolutely. We'll be putting those on your capability statement. That's important, but that's not what you lead with. You lead with what you do best. You lead with what makes you special. That's what they want to hear about. That's what they're interested in. That's what's going to make them do business with you. It's your woman-owned small business status isn't going to immediately make them do business with you. The proof is in the pudding. I'm sure we've all heard that a billion times. And decision makers want to see the same thing on your capability statement. They want proof that you can do what you say you can do. And so those services that you describe in your core competencies, they want to see past performance examples. And when I say past performance, that is a very specific term, legal term in the federal marketplace. They want to see past performance examples of when you've done that in the past and someone has paid you for it. That's what that means. And last, most important thing, you want to mitigate risk. And that's what all of these things are doing. That's what putting together a great capability statement is going to do for you. It's going to mitigate the risk that a decision maker sees in doing business with you. They'll know that you're professional, that you know your stuff, that you know what they need, that you know that you can provide what they need, that you've done it in the past, and here's what makes us the best at doing those things. That's what you'll be able to communicate to a decision maker with a really good capability statement. That's a company that somebody wants to do business with. That's our goal today. Hopefully when we walk away today, you'll have some version of that. It'll make me very happy if we do. A few ideas, things that are negatives that can really prevent you from making strides in doing business with decision makers who are looking for companies like you. Having a poor capability statement that describes 25 different services across 8 different industries can lock you out. For a decision maker, that means that you don't necessarily know what you do, and they don't know if you can do what they need. And that's disqualifying for them. They're looking for companies that can provide a couple of specific services in a very specific industry. Can you, the question they want to answer is, can you do that? And can you do it at a high level? If the answer is yes, then welcome to the club. But adding a bunch of different things starts to muddy the message, and it makes it difficult for that decision maker to include you in those companies who can do those things. Speaking of which, you don't want to highlight your weaknesses. As I was mentioning earlier, if you've got significant past performance and experience doing janitorial services, but you've only got a smidge of experience maybe doing financial services, you don't want to necessarily highlight those financial services yet. The time will come, patience, the time will come when that financial services vertical is there for you and is ready for you to really market and to go after. But you need to grow the company where the company can grow. And where the company can grow is what you do best. And what you do best is typically what you have the most experience doing. And so you don't want to highlight your weakest services. You want to highlight the things that are your strengths. Highlight the services that you have significant experience providing high quality service to your various customers doing. It can prove that you aren't familiar with the federal marketplace, with how they do business. If you have different header names or you don't have the right information in the various sections of your capability statement, as I mentioned before, they have very specific expectations about what's supposed to go in this capability statement. And so as they're reading it, they want to know, they're kind of testing your federal government knowledge, right? Your federal government acumen. There are a set of cultures and practices and rules and regulations, especially in the federal marketplace. There are tons and tons of rules and regulations that an experienced contractor who's been doing business with federal decision makers will know and will be familiar with. Are you familiar with those things? And they'll be able to tell that by reading through your capability statement. Okay. Bad capability statements highlight your risks. One of the things that you absolutely don't want to put on your capability statement is you don't want to put that you have great people. That is not a differentiator. That doesn't tell the decision maker anything. If you can tell me that your people have these 3 certifications, professional certifications, that tells me you have great people. But saying you have great people is a bit of a red flag for a decision maker. Everyone has great people. No one's going to put on their capability statement that their people are mediocre. Okay, so think of the ways in which your people are great. Use those things to describe the people who work for the company. Don't be superficial in the differentiators you put together, because that can appear risky to a decision maker. Next up, we've got a little poll here. I'd ask Eduardo to launch the poll for us. How often, if you do have a capability statement, how often does your company customize your capability statement? Awesome. So do you never customize your capability statement? You've got just that one version, and that's good enough. That's what we've got. See, do you have one per agency or per company you target? Do you modify every capability statement depending on the opportunities? That's a lot. That's a significant amount of work. Or are you working on your first capability statement? In which case you will be getting off to the right foot. So for those folks who are just creating your first one, no worries. That means your first one's going to be great. It's going to be right, which is awesome. All right. I think we're about good. I think we can close the, we're going to get 65. There we go. All right. Here. So it looks like we've got about, oh, here, I'll share this over. You guys can see the screen. So 29%, they never customize their capability statement. They have a great general one, which is awesome. But I'll tell you, that's not the right answer. 8% say they have one per agency or company they target. Yes, that is awesome. That's much closer. 20% customize you modify every capability statement. You folks are going down the right avenue there. That's where you want to be. And as we walk through the presentation, it'll make more sense why you'll need to customize every capability statement depending on the opportunities. And then we've got 42% of the folks who are working on your first one, which, as I said, that's okay. That's good, because here we're going to start you off on the right foot. You'll have the right sections. You'll have what you need to put in those sections of the capability statement. to make sure you walk away with a capability statement that will be compelling and will help you build strong relationships with the decision makers. All right. Thank you so much for answering the poll. I appreciate that, everybody. And if you haven't already pulled up that document, or if you want to pull up just a Word document, we'll walk through each of the sections as well, and you can fill it in as well. We're going to start as we walk through the 5 sections of the capability statement. We'll go through each one, what goes in each one. We're going to go detail by detail. We're not going to leave anything out, and then hopefully we'll answer as many questions as we can at the end to make sure that you all have what you need to be successful. So let's do it. There are 5 titles, 5 section titles in a great, compelling capability statement. The first, capability statement. Second, core competencies. Third, past performance. Fourth, differentiators, and then company data. And so if you're just using a Word document, if you weren't able to get that QR code and scan it, just put these sections on a Word doc and we'll go through and we'll fill in each section as we walk through. You want to use these very specific section titles. You don't want to get too fancy. Decision makers are expecting to see these section titles and expecting to see certain information as they move through your capability statement in the various sections. Your capability statement will be just 1 page. And so all of this information will all need to fit on the front page, just 1 page for your capability statement. I've heard people describe it as a resume, and I hesitate to do that because then folks start putting their personal resume stuff into your capability statement. Don't do that, but think of your capability statement kind of as the company's resume. When you're going for different job offers, right? You don't just use the same, hopefully not. Hopefully you don't just use the same resume over and over and over again. Hopefully you're tweaking the resume, you're tweaking what you did at your various occupations to match the requirements, to match the job description of the interview or the job that you're going for. We're going to kind of do the same thing with your capability statement. Industries are quite large, and so the IT, there's lots of things you can do in the IT industry. Saying you provide IT services doesn't really tell the decision maker if you can do what they need. They need a risk management framework. Do you do that? And so we'll talk about getting that specific and how to get that specific with each of the capability statements you build and why you'll want to do that. Okay. First up, at the top, you want to call it a capability statement. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, these things are very specific marketing documents that have a specific set of expectations attached to them in what's going to be included. They're expecting to see certain things when they see capability statement at the top. If you don't put capability statement at the top, then they don't know what to expect. And so first, call it what it is. Put capability statement up at the top. The next thing you want to do is you want to put your logo, and don't put the little tiny logo, put nice and big, nice and bold so that you can see the branding for the company, see who you are. We're also, at the same time, we're trying to provide information. We're also trying to make a brand impression on these decision makers so that when you do call them and they see your email signature with your logo in it, they can make that reference back to your capability statement and go, oh yeah, I got the capability statement from so-and-so at that event, and here they are emailing me about having a one-on-one meeting with them. Remember the purpose of your capability statement. Your purpose is to get a meeting with the decision makers. That's why you're doing this. After you put your logo, you want to put your contact information. Put your personal contact information on there. Personal contact information. Whoever, and if you're a large organization, a larger organization, whoever the decision maker is for those specific opportunities, right? And so if you're targeting the U.S. Department of Agriculture and you've got a business development person who that's their agency, that's their job. Whoever's in charge of the Department of Agriculture opportunities, that's whose name goes on the top of the Department of Agriculture opportunities capability statement. Whoever's in charge of the VA opportunities, that's whose name and contact information goes on top of the Veterans Affairs Administration capability statement. And so you want to put the specific person and their specific contact information at the top. We are using this to build relationships. It is very difficult for a decision maker to build a relationship with you if your email is info@. How do you greet that email? Hello, info. So that you give them someone to connect with. You want to put that person's contact information up at the top. Think of it as like a mini business card, so that when that decision maker sees how wonderful and amazing your capability statement is, they have a way to reach out to a specific person at your company. Next section, core competencies. This is one of those kind of, if you haven't done business in the federal marketplace, this is one of those kind of like, why is this section titled core competencies? That's what they call it. That's what they call it, whether it's products or services, doesn't matter. Core competencies is, what are you trying to provide to the federal government? What services, what products, what capabilities do you have? What are those things that you're trying to sell to the federal government? Those are your core competencies. That should be the next section of your capability statement. Remember, we want to focus in first on what you do best. That's the first thing that we want to focus on. You want your core competencies to be laser focused on whoever the target is. And that's whoever the target is. Don't think of the federal government as just one customer. The federal government is huge and ginormous, and they spend over $70 billion every year. And that's a lot of money and a lot of procurements. That $70 billion, though, all of that does not apply to you, your company, and your industry. So first, you need to identify the companies who are buying your products or buying your services. How do you do that? SAM.gov. As I mentioned before, on SAM.gov, under contract opportunities, you can search for your products or search for your services. You can search janitorial services. You can search for construction. You can search for financial services. You can search for plumbing. You can search for HVAC. Whatever it is that your company does, you can go to SAM.gov and you can search the contract opportunities that are upcoming. Take a look and see what agencies are buying more than just one opportunity regarding your services. If there's just one, then that's a very, very red ocean. That means that everybody's all fighting and scrapping for that one opportunity. Like I said, there's $70 billion of spending happening. There are other agencies out there who have several opportunities out there for your services. Find those agencies. When you find those agencies, oh, that's it, word out. When you find those agencies, laser focus in on what they call your services. And so I'll stick with my janitorial services because they have a very good comparison and contrast with a couple of keywords. And so when you're looking for janitorial services, right, and you finally found that agency that provides janitorial services, or that's buying janitorial services. What you'll want to do is you'll want to go into the notice, click on the opportunity, and read through what the government will typically call the scope of work. You're looking for the scope of work, the performance work statement, PWS, or the statement of work, SOW. One of those documents, statement of work, scope of work, statement of work. In those documents, in those details for the opportunity, they will tell you exactly what they want to buy. They will tell you how much of it they want to buy. They will tell you how big the building is going to be if you're providing janitorial services. They'll tell you what kinds of rooms you need to clean, how you need to clean them. Do you need to mop every week? Do you need to sweep daily? They will tell you all of the details about what goes in that opportunity. As you're combing through those details, key in on what the keywords and phrases are that the government is using to describe your services, because they might be different than how you describe your services. That's okay, but we need to know, and you need to know, what the government is calling it. For example, for janitorial services, sometimes you will see opportunities for facilities maintenance called janitorial services. Other agencies will call them custodial services. Depending on the agency who you're targeting and who you're doing business with, your capability statement might be describing the same exact services, but in one capability statement, you market them as custodial services. In your other capability statement, you market it as janitorial services. Now, while you're still doing the same thing, you're providing the same capabilities, those are different keywords and phrases that the government's using to describe your services. And you'll want to know what those differences are up from the different agencies who you're looking to do business with. Okay, so key in. Oh, Eduardo, did you have a question?
Yes, real quick, I'm sorry. We've had several requests for the QR code. People trying to kind of get to that. Wondered if you want to show it real quick. Not to
Yeah,
interrupt,
pop
I
up.
apologize. Maybe
No, no
we'll give
worries.
them a few
Let's give
seconds
them
here
their.
for people to go ahead and scan it, try to get to that. So take your
Yeah,
opportunity and then we'll let Kion get back to things.
sure.
Sorry about that, but we just had several requests, so I wanted to
Yeah, no worries. No
appreciate
worries.
it. Thank you.
Yeah, we're
All
doing
right,
we're doing
sorry.
good.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. We'll give them a minute to scan the QR code. Yeah, then again, if you're following along, you can, as we go through the various section headers, as long as you put those section headers, that's what's on that QR code document there. Give everyone a few more minutes to get that. I know how technology works. It works. It works when it wants to.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. All right, let's go back. We are talking about core competencies. Right. So again, relating your keywords and phrases to the services that you provide. You want to use the government's keywords and phrases as they describe your products or describe your services. The opening part of your core competency section is your hook for getting the decision maker to read the rest of your capability statement. The government decision makers are going through dozens of these a week. They're seeing tons and tons and tons of them. And many of them, frankly, are not eye-catching and don't have the information that the decision makers are looking for. And so many of them get glanced at very quickly and then they get filed accordingly. This very beginning sentence of your capability statement is something that we have found at TargetGov to be extremely successful and part of the reason why our clients get meetings with the decision makers who they reach out to. So this is a big star, asterisk, big star, big key. You want to start your capability statement core competency section like this. Your company name either provides the services for or supports the mission of, insert the agency name in its mission to, and then you quote the agency's mission statement, that specific agency's mission statement. And so if you're interested in doing business with the USDA, it would sound something like this. TargetGov supports the U.S. Department of Agriculture in its mission to, insert the Department of Agriculture's mission statement, by providing. And the agency's name that you are targeting should be in bold. That's what, not your name, not your company name, the agency's name goes in bold. It creates the effect, like if you've ever been reading a book. I remember I was in middle school and my name is fairly unique. I don't see a lot of Kions out there. But I was reading a book in middle school and one of the characters' names was Kyo, K-I-Y-O. And I immediately almost jumped out of my seat because I'm like, whoa, someone wrote my name in a book. This is going to elicit that same effect for decision makers at their agencies, because that person who's going to be reading your capability statement, they're going to work for the Department of Agriculture, and everywhere they go throughout their day job and all the things that they do and what they do day to day is to carry out the mission of that agency that they work for. And so they hear and see the mission statement all the time, all the time. It's why they do what they do. And so when they read your capability statement and they see your mission statement, they're going to go, oh, wow, okay, this is for me. They wrote this specifically for us. That will get them to read the rest of your capability statement. That will give you a chance. It'll give you the opportunity to really impress and wow that decision maker with the content that you've and the work that you've put into that capability statement. After that little short statement about how your company supports the agency's mission, then you want to use keyword heavy bullet points. you will pull those keyword heavy bullet points directly out of the opportunities that you are interested in. I literally go through with a highlighter. I take the opportunity, I copy and paste it into a Word document. I've done hundreds and hundreds of capability statements. I take and copy and paste the words from the opportunity into a Word document, and I go through with a highlighter, well, with an electronic highlighter, and I highlight those keywords and phrases that describe what my client does, that describes the services that they do, that describes how they do the services that they do. Okay, and then I take those keywords and phrases, pull them out of that opportunity, and put them directly onto the capability statement. So that when the government is looking at the opportunity, they're looking at the requirements, and it says custodial services, the capability statement says custodial services. It doesn't say janitorial services because that's not what the government called it. The government called it custodial services. And so I want my capability statement to say custodial services. Okay, and that's how they're doing their evaluation, right? The decision maker has a written set of requirements. Again, they tell you exactly what they want. They have a written set of requirements. Go find me a company that can do these things, these 8 things. And then they're looking at capability statements and they're determining, can this company's capability statement that I'm looking at, does this look like a company who can do what it says in this requirements, in these requirements that I have in my other hand? And if it matches, great. If I'm struggling to make it match and make it make sense, then I'm going to determine that company can't do what I need. And so now I'm going to move on to other companies. I'm going to move on to a large business, right? The federal government has to search for small businesses to provide the services that they're looking to buy. They have to, they must. It's a part of their requirements. It's legally required. But if they can't find a company who they think can credibly provide the services that they're looking for, that's when they move on to those large businesses. That's when the large companies take over those contracts and win even more millions and billions of dollars that they already have. So make sure that you're describing the services in the way that the federal government is talking about them, or that your state government is talking about them. Use their words to describe your services. Make them match, make it make sense, but use their words to describe your services. Next section, past performance. So since we've got some folks who are building your first capability statement, I'm going to make an assumption, and I'm going to say that maybe you don't have a significant amount of past performance yet, and that's okay. I will talk about how to use your personal experience and capacity in doing business as well on your capability statement. And so we will get to you folks who need to use more of your personal capacity to market your company. But for our folks who do have past performance is work that your company has done that someone has paid you for. It does not have to be government past performance. If you worked for another business, if they hired you to provide your services and you provided services for them and they paid you for it, that counts as past performance for your company. That is the proof that you can do what you said in your core competencies. So as we're walking through here, I'll try to relate all of the sections to each other so that you see how this creates one comprehensive picture for you. So you've got your core competencies. We just told the government that we can provide custodial services, right? Or janitorial services, depending on what they called it. Now I want to prove to them that we can do that. If the government said, I want a 20,000, I need a 20,000, I need janitorial services, custodial services for a 20,000 square foot building. In your past performance examples, you don't want to put past performance examples about the HVAC support you've provided. You don't want to put past performance examples about the gardening support or the lawn mowing support that you've done. It's not what they're looking for. They're looking for janitorial services. And so if they're looking for janitorial services, your past performance examples should be related to the opportunities that you're targeting for that agency. If it's not related to the past, if the past performance is not related to the opportunities coming out of that agency, then don't put it on that version of the capability statement. It'll go on a different version of the capability statement. It will still be used, but it should not be used for that version of the capability statement. Your past performance is not your resume, so don't put your personal. If you performed personally on a project, that does not count for your company's past performance. This has to be work that your company was paid for. In your past performance examples, you don't want to just list that we did this job, or recently I worked with a client, they just listed all of the cities and counties that they've worked for. It was just a list of like 20 of them. That doesn't tell the decision maker anything. I don't know what you did for those 20 cities and county governments. It's great that you've done business with them, and that shows that you're a successful company, but that's only one part of my determination. I also have to determine whether or not you can provide the services that I need. And just listing all of the clients without any context or any details doesn't necessarily tell me what you did for them. You could have done completely different services for those clients. And that gives me no proof that you can do what I need. So show the benefit to the specific customers that you list in your past performance as well. In the order of priority, for those folks who have different past performance examples across different organizations, public and private, if you have, for your federal capability statement specifically, if you have federal past performance of you doing the same or similar work, you put that on there first. Or if you're going for a state government contract and you have past performance of you doing work with that specific state government entity and you're doing the same or similar work, you put that on your capability statement first. After you do that, you put past performance examples of you doing the same or similar work, but with a different entity, a different government entity, right? So a different agency, a different office, but still within the government organization that you're looking to go do business with, you're looking to target. That's your next priority for past performance examples you'll put. After you put that, if you have like local or municipality work for the same or similar services, put that there. And then last, if you have commercial work or consumers that you're selling to, you include same or similar services. Again, always that caveat. You put that past performance on there next. And so by order of priority, you're essentially getting further and further away from the customer. And so the closer you can be to showing past performance examples where you were doing those things as close to the customer's type as possible, the better they are. First past performance example and formatting. This is if your company was the prime contractor for that contract. The prime contractor is the entity that is paid specifically from the government organization, whether that be state or whether that be federal government. So you are working directly for the federal government. You are not working for a company who works for the federal government. You work directly with the federal decision makers. They pay you directly. You are the prime contractor. First thing you put is you put the customer's name. Put the agency's name, you put that in bold. Next thing you include is you include the date of performance. You don't want your past performance examples to be any older than 5 years. Ideally, you want them within the last 3 years. 3 years is ideal. If you need to reach back 5 years to get you maybe one more good example of your past performance, then you can reach back to 5 years, but 3 years is ideal. Next, you want to put the name of the contract, if it had a contract title, or the contract vehicle. For those of you who are working in federal contracting, I would do an entire presentation on contract vehicles. So I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole today, but come to some of our other presentations and I talk quite a bit about contract vehicles. Those are important things and concepts to know and understand in doing business with the federal marketplace. The dollar amount, and then describe what you did for that entity, for that agency, whoever the customer was. You want to describe in some detail what they do. You don't need paragraphs and paragraphs of detail. We're talking 2 or 3 sentences. Use the keywords and phrases that the government is using to describe your services in the descriptions that you put of your past performance examples. And so back to our custodial versus janitorial question. If the government's calling it custodial services, but the customer who you did business with called it janitorial services, on your capability statement, you call it custodial services. because that's what the government is buying. That's what they're calling it. In addition to describing the services that you provided for that customer, you also want to describe some of the benefits that you provided to that customer in them working with you. So how much money did you save them? Give them some metrics on the capacity of your performance. So how many thousand square feet of cleaning did you do for that customer over the life of that contract? What that does is it gives the decision makers some numbers, some metrics, some understanding of what it is that exactly that you did for that customer and how that applies to their set of requirements. If I as a decision maker have a 20,000 square foot building that I need cleaned, and then in your past performance example, it says you've cleaned over 100,000 square feet. Well, now I feel comfortable as a decision maker that you can handle my 20,000 square foot building. They're trying to make quick evaluations of your capacity and of your core competency as a company. Can you do what I need? These capability statements, as I mentioned at the beginning, are used to get specific meetings with decision makers, one-on-one meetings. That means you will want to include your past performance person's point of contact in these past performance examples. Put their actual name, their actual contact information on the capability statement. For the capability statement that goes on your SBA profile, or if you're going to put your capability statement on your website, please do not put your customer's contact information out there publicly. Your competitors will come by and they will try to take it. So don't do that. Instead, I want you to put contact and then put your name for immediate references. Contact Eduardo Hayden for immediate references, for example. And then put Eduardo's phone number and his email address. So that when if a decision maker does have your capability statement from your website or from your SBA profile, they can reach out to someone from your company and get the past performance example that they need. They can get that person's point of contact. If you don't have a reference for that project and you are looking to use it on your capability statement, I'd give the organization a call to see if there's someone else there who can speak to your company's past performance. If not, I would not include it on your capability statement. The government will want to talk to someone who's familiar with your work. So you'll want to know if that decision maker, if that point of contact is still available there. What if you weren't a prime contractor? What if you worked for another company who was working for the agency that now you want to be the prime for, right? I see this happen all the time, right? I'm a small business. I've been working with Northrop Grumman for the past 20 years, and we've been the subcontractor to the Army, and we've been working with them for the past 10 years. And now I want to go get my own contract with the Army. I want to be the prime contractor with the Army now, and I don't want Northrop to be involved anymore. Okay. So how do you market that to those decision makers at the Army who you're interested in doing business with? How do you market that work that you've been doing with Northrop Grumman that's related to the government still? Here's what you do if you're a subcontractor. As a subcontractor to prime contractor name in bold, at agency name in bold. Now you have both represented the relationship that you have with the prime contractor, which can also be a benefit to you in the federal marketplace. Partnering and teaming is a huge, huge part of being a federal contractor. And so don't be afraid of partnering and teaming. Actually, I would say run towards, especially if you're a small business just getting started, run towards it. Vet your partners, pick the right partners, but run towards it. All money is green. And so subcontract dollars are no less green than prime contract dollars. So it's definitely a way for you to break in and do business with federal decision makers. And so if you're the subcontractor to the prime, that's how you describe your relationship. You include all of the same information throughout. And then at the end, the point of contact, it will depend on the nature of your work with the prime contractor or with the government. It will your relationship will get worked out between you and the prime, whether that means you're working directly with the agency decision makers or you work directly with the people at the company and then they work with the federal government decision makers. It will depend contract to contract, but put the point of contact for the people who know the details of your work, who knows specifically what you did. And so if you're working day to day with the federal government, those are the decision makers who I would put on this past performance example. If you're working day to day with the other people at the prime contractor who you're working with, that's whose contact information I would say to include on your past performance example on your capability statement. What if you're just getting started and you've got lots and lots of experience providing management over janitorial services projects, right? You've managed hundreds and hundreds of janitorial services projects and contracts and people, and you've got personal experience yourself providing those services, but your company only has maybe 1 or 2 jobs under your belt right now. You're just getting going. That's okay. And your past experience is still valuable and important to market to federal decision makers. You can't call it past performance. And so don't call it past performance. If you call it past performance, the government will think your company was paid for it. And if they find out you weren't, that can be a red flag for them in doing business with you. That makes you look risky, right? And the whole goal of making this capability statement compelling and perfect is to make sure that you guys don't look risky. But if you are marketing that experience, that's what you will call it. You will call it either past experience or relevant experience. And so if you label it that section, then you can provide details about the relevant experience you have working on similar projects, similar jobs, providing similar products or services. You can also reference key staff members. And so let's say you have a staff member, and we see this happen a lot too. Let's say you have a former federal official who used to work on a program at HHS, and now they've left the organization and now they work for your company. And so they have very specific subject matter expertise and knowledge about that specific program at the Department of Health and Human Services. That's not your company's past performance, right? Because he worked for the government agency, but you want to rely on his relevant experience with that program to impress upon the decision maker that you have the subject matter experts needed to do this job. And in that case, you can reference key staff members have experience providing, or key staff members have experience with, insert the program name from the Department of Health and Human Services. That's the way that you can describe and you can talk about your relevant experience in a way that can still be compelling and important for decision makers to understand while they're evaluating your company. All right, we've got one more poll. I'm going to ask Eduardo to launch the poll, and it is about differentiators. It's not up on the screen, but as soon as Eduardo launches it, you'll see the questions. There it is. So which of just a quick poll to get a gauge of your understanding. Which of these are not differentiators? Branded services and processes, performance metrics, socioeconomic statuses, or employee certifications? Which one is not a differentiator? Specifically in the federal space here. I'm going to pull the poll over while we get our results in, so that way we don't skew anyone's responses. We're doing pretty well so far, though. You all are great. Look at you. That's awesome. All right, Eduardo, we got it. Yeah, I think we're good. Almost at 70% there. All right, which of these are not differentiators? First up, branded services and processes. Those are absolutely differentiators. You have to market them the right way, and you need to brand and you need to trademark them so that other folks can't take them from you. But we'll talk about how to market those and why those are. That's some secret sauce I am providing to you guys today. That's a part of what has made our clients very, very successful in the federal marketplace. And you have to know how to use it, but those can be special and they're inherent to your company, which is pretty cool. Performance metrics. Performance metrics are awesome. I've already I kind of gave that one away a little bit because I've been talking about them. Performance metrics are awesome because they give the person an evaluation, a numerical evaluation where they don't have to insert their own subjectivity into it. They can be very objective about your evaluation. Socioeconomic status, that is correct. Your socioeconomic status is not a differentiator for you. It is important and you can use it, but it is not a differentiator for you. It is a part of your company data. It's a part of who you are as a company. And so you can use it to position, not that it can't help you position, but it's not what makes you special. And in employee certifications, yes, absolutely. Employee certifications are differentiators. They yield a sense of credibility to the people at the organization. I think earlier I mentioned, I said, no one says that they have mediocre people, right? Everyone has great people. And so, but some people have very, very highly qualified and highly skilled people. And there are ways to describe that in a way that's a little bit more objective than just saying we have very highly qualified, highly skilled people. If I've got lots of folks, if I'm a medical organization, I've got lots of folks with doctoral degrees. That's important for an organization that works in the medical field. Or if I'm a project management company and I've got 95% of my staff PMP certified, that's an important level of quality that I'm showing with the people who we have at our company that you'll be working with if you decide to work with us. And so those are ways to describe what makes your people the best. So thank you all for that. Thank you, Eduardo, for launching that poll for me. So differentiators. Differentiators are one of the most challenging things for small businesses to do. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable in either saying that or working on those differentiators, or when your mind gets twisted in a knot, you're trying to figure out what it is. I want you to know that that's normal. That's not something that is completely out of the question or out of the ordinary. They're unique features about you, your company, the way you do business, the performance, and the quality of performance that you've had with the customers who you've worked with in the past. That's what differentiators are for you. And they come in lots of different forms. But first you have to know what differentiators really make you special and what differentiators aren't necessarily what a decision maker is going to hang on as what makes you special. Once you identify what those things are is when you can start to develop them for you and your company that will impress a decision maker when they're looking at your capability statement. So let's go through a few different examples. I'm sure we're going to have 1,000,000,001 questions on differentiators. And so I'll scooch it a little bit so that we can answer those when we get to the end. This is one of the things that I probably spend 30-40% of my time on, working with my clients to develop strong differentiators to make them stand out in comparison to the other several thousand companies who are trying to do business in the space. So first things first, what makes you different from your competitors? And really, really take some time to think about it. I've worked with a few IT companies who, especially like cybersecurity companies, where we'll talk and I'll say, okay, what makes you guys different than that other cybersecurity company who I met with 2 weeks ago, who I saw at that conference? Why are you guys special? And they'll say, well, the compliance and the cybersecurity things that we do, they're all the same. They're all the same compliance test, and so it's all the same. That's not necessarily what I'm looking for. That's true that the compliance that you do for cybersecurity or for other types of services as well, that is the same, but how do you get there? What steps do you take to get your client from being non-cybersecurity compliant to being cyber secure? What steps do you take to determine what the manpower is going to be, or what the manpower you're going to need to be able to execute the cleaning requirements that the government laid out in that janitorial services or that custodial services opportunity that we've been talking about? How do you know that you're going to need 45 janitors over the next 6 months? What do you do to put a plan together to execute the services that you provide, or to deliver the products that you provide? How do you get them there on time? How do you make sure that they get there on time? How do you rectify any issues if something comes up in the process of delivering those products? That's what makes you different. Everyone doesn't all do the same processes for all of the same things all the same time. There are certain tweaks and nuances that you have in what you do and how you do it that makes it a little bit special and it makes it a little bit unique to your company. Figure out what that is. When you figure out what that is, you want to give it a name. And I mean, just name it. Come up with a name, give it a name. Once you give it a name, now I can put it on my capability statement and I can market it to a decision maker. Without a name, it's just the cybersecurity services that we provide. But there's more than that. There are processes that are in place. There's quality assurance that's in place. There's customer service processes that are in place to deliver those cybersecurity services or those janitorial services that they're looking for. But there's more to it than just the cleaning itself. And so what is that process for you? Give it a name. Go to pto.gov. It's the Patent and Trademark Office. Go to pto.gov and figure out and search to see if that name has been trademarked yet. If it has not, you want to do that, because then we can put it on the capability statement, and then we can get the decision maker to write it into the requirements that we've been talking about. Right in your capability statement, it will say you must use the Target Gov Platinum Business Development process for this opportunity. You can make that happen in those meetings that you're going to go get using this capability statement. But you have to have something to point to, a process that's unique to you to be able to market that to the decision maker. I know I'm going to get a billion questions on that, but that's okay. Hopefully we'll answer all of them. Metrics. I've already mentioned metrics a few times. Metrics are ways that you can prove to a decision maker that you can execute the project that they need. Let's say a decision maker they need 20,000 computers, right? They need them by next month. If in your differentiators, it says that you all have delivered 1.5 million computers to your customers over the past year, well, that decision maker is going to feel very comfortable that you can deliver the 20,000 computers that they need in the next month if you're doing over 1.5 million computers a year. It's a way for them to compare apples to apples. And so your differentiators will change too with your capability statement, because what the apples are will be different, for lack of a better term. Your core competencies will be different. And so the metrics that you're using to describe your services will change with the core competencies that you're describing. And so back to IT, right? Cybersecurity services. You'll have different metrics to describe your cybersecurity services versus having metrics to describe your help desk services, right? Your help desk services, you'll want the total number of help desk tickets your company has serviced, right? You won't necessarily put that on your cybersecurity capability statement. You might put other metrics that describe how many people use the cybersecurity systems or the systems that have been secured by you and the company across the organization. That might be the metric that you use for that capability statement. And so think about, what can a decision maker see in a numerical figure, a metric, that they'll look at that and they'll know that I can do what's listed in these requirements. What is that number? What is that metric? For construction, it's square footage typically. So if an agency needs a 10,000 square foot building built, if you tell me in your metrics, right, that you've built over 250,000 square feet over the past 6 months, then I know you can take care of my 10,000 square foot building. Okay, so think about how to mold and shape those metrics to give that decision maker a level of comfort that you can do what's in the requirements. Exclusives, I kind of just mentioned, I talked about that when I talked about that first one, and branding and trademarking it so that it's exclusive to you and your company. Then other companies can't come and take it, and they can't even match it because they won't know what's in it. So if you have some quality assurance process that you use that, for my folks who do ISO, that pulls in ISO, PMBOK, pulls in PMP, strategies and tactics, project management, professional strategies and tactics, and you've kind of combined them all into this slurry, and you've turned it into your own kind of process. Give that process a name. Actually, I just mentioned ISO. That's the next one. Give that process a name and trademark it so that you can market it to the decision makers. ISO certifications, international standards for quality assurance. If you are interested in, and it's essentially a documentation of all of the processes that you use at the company to do what you do. That's the simplest way that I can put it. It is extensive, very extensive. That is why it is widely recognized for its quality assurance processes. And so if you are interested in a formal quality assurance certification, you can go get ISO certified. Location. This is one that folks don't think about all the time. Luckily for you all, well, I would assume that a lot of you folks are probably here in Maryland or close, born and raised. I grew up in Essex Middle River area. And I live there now, actually. I went to school upstate New York, but I came back. So born and raised, I know the Maryland story and the Maryland mission. And so you can't go 10 feet in this state without running into somebody who works for either a federal contractor or works for the federal government. That's a differentiator for you. If let's stay with janitorial services and custodial services, if I need those types of services and I'm down at Fort Meade and I got two companies in front of me, one of them is in my backyard, is in the Baltimore, DC metro area, and the other company's down in Florida, but they're both very similar, right? I'm going to go with the company in my backyard because they're right there. I know if I need anything, they're right around the corner from me. And so your location, your proximity to various government offices and agencies is a differentiator for you. So think about that. How you train your employees, how you onboard those employees, and how you get them ready to either work for you or work for federal government entities as well. That's another type of process that you can develop, that you can build for placing, especially for those folks who place people in various positions across the federal government. That's one that we have seen work very well, the way that you bring on those people. And then you can attach a metric to that for how long those people typically stay on. Do those people typically stay in those jobs? What's the turnover rate for those positions because of that training and onboarding process that you've developed? If you have extensive relationships with an agency already, those are differentiators that you want to lean on. Or earlier, I was talking about like relevant experience. You have very specific relevant experience that is attached to the program or to the office or to the agency that you're looking to do business with. That's a differentiator for you. That shows a level of knowledge that maybe another company who hasn't worked with the agency will have. And so if you have that, you want to include that in your differentiators as well. All of these things are good differentiator sections. Any one type, you want at least three good ones. Three really, really good ones is what you want. But you want to make sure those three good ones relate to that agency, that prime contractor, that teaming partner, whoever that is who you're trying to build a relationship with, get in front of and get a meeting with, right? Our purpose, again, keep our purpose front of mind. Whoever that person is who you're trying to go out in front of and get a meeting with, a one-on-one meeting with, does this differentiator move the needle with them? Will it be important to that person? That's how you'll want to relate your decision makers to the core competencies that you've listed in the first section of your capability statement. Differentiation should be short, succinct. You don't want paragraphs of information. Folks don't read paragraphs anymore, unfortunately. And so you'll want your differentiators to be short bullet points as well. That's where metrics really come in, because you see a number, your eyes immediately go to it and you process that information pretty quickly. And so that's why metrics can be really, really effective really effective differentiators for you. As I mentioned before, focusing on the customer's needs. When you're reading the requirements, those opportunities from SAM.gov or from other places that you're looking at opportunities, when you're reading those requirements, see if you can identify challenges or issues that the agency had. If the agency in the requirements says that you need to keep the turnover rate for your staffing below 80%, that tells you that they probably had a turnover problem in the past. And now they're putting a requirement in the opportunity to make sure that whoever the contractor is going to address that turnover problem. Put a differentiator on your capability statement that already addresses that issue that's in the requirements. Whatever the challenges are that they've put requirements in place to mitigate, make sure you're addressing those challenges, and that you've shown that you can address those challenges in both your core competencies and in your past performance and in your differentiators very specifically. You want to highlight the benefits that you've provided to your customers. That's where a core element of your differentiators will come from. What have you done in the past for your clients that you can now do for the federal government or do for a state government entity? Incorporate your metrics. So tie the pieces together, as I've been kind of saying. So take that proprietary trait. So let's say you have a process for developing a plan for cleaning a building, right? Take that plan and tie it to a metric. And so now you'll have our platinum building cleaning process has helped us deliver over 1.5 million square feet of cleaning to our clients over the past 5 years. That's different. That's special. Nobody else is going to be able to say that statement. You're going to be the only company who has the platinum building cleaning process that has helped your customers receive over 1.5 million square feet of cleaning space. That's different than the other small businesses who you're going to be doing business with. So tie your metrics in with the processes that you use to do business. And you're probably already doing all of these things, which is what makes it so awesome, is you're probably already doing all of the quality assurance, doing the customer service, putting the plans together, executing on those plans, making sure the right team's in place. You're doing all of those things already. And then you're delivering those services to the clients. Now it's time to put those processes with the results that you've delivered to your clients to show the decision makers that you are special, that you can do what they need, and that you've done it at a high level. That's how you put all the pieces together. So your ideal differentiators, they speak directly to the requirements, to that decision maker and their needs. They focus on how you helped your customers or how you're going to help that future customer. You have to include metrics. And as I mentioned earlier, you want 3. If you have 3, most companies don't have one strong differentiator, frankly. So if you have 3 strong differentiators from the categories that we just looked at, you will set yourself apart from the other companies who are doing business. Some things that differentiators are not. You guys were correct as we did our poll. Socioeconomic certifications are not differentiators. Okay. And so don't put those things in your differentiator section. I will tell you in just a couple of slides where those things go on your capability statement, but they do not go in your differentiator section. So do not put them there. Generic statements, like, again, we have the most wonderful people, or we have the most highly qualified people. That is not a differentiator for you. Decision makers, a company's never going to go to a decision maker and say, our people are so-so. They do the job. They get the job done. That's not what, no one's going to say that. And so you don't need to say that to a decision maker. Instead, describe what makes your people special. Don't be generic in the statements that you give. Be very specific in what you do and how you do it and why that is special, why that's different than the other 15 small businesses who they've met with over the past 2 months. Remember, they're buyers. They're buying and they spend over $70 billion each year. And so they've got all kinds of companies coming through their offices, coming through, doing webinars, doing presentations, capability briefings. How are you going to set yourself apart? It's not going to be because you have great people. They are not static. Your differentiators, like everything else on your capability statement, should shift and change with the opportunities and the target who you are interested in doing business with. That's which differentiators you should include. They're not one type fits all. They fit. They're specific to the opportunities and the decision makers. No fluff. I don't want superlatives. I don't want the best, the greatest, white glove service. I don't want any of those things. Those things don't mean anything to a decision maker. That doesn't help them evaluate whether or not you are a good company to do the services or provide the products that they need. And so don't include any of that marketing fluff. There's your quality people, services, or products. Don't do those. No high quality, best quality. What makes it high quality? What makes it best quality? Why? Include the why. If you include the why, typically that gets you closer to what a real differentiator should be. Because this is something that I see folks do who have typically just started in business. But there's a way to do this that is more effective. So don't say 100 years of combined experience or 50 plus years of combined experience. Don't do that. Instead, think about the various positions that you would need for that opportunity. So let's say that that opportunity that you're interested in is going to need project managers or program managers. Instead of talking about your combined experience, talk about the average experience that your people have. that shows a floor for the people who you have. And so that decision makers know they're not dealing with year 1, year 2, year 3 program managers. They know they're dealing with, that's how you say we have experienced people. Our program managers have an average experience of 16 years, of 17 years. Saying 50 plus years, that could be one person with 40 years and another person with 7 years and another person with 3. And so what's the average years of experience for the people that are going to be working hand in hand with the government decision makers? That will tell them the quality of those people, what their experience level is. Solutions provider, the government does like solutions. And so if you develop a solution, give it a name and trademark it. That's how you turn it into a differentiator. And I mentioned those earlier, best in class, world class, all of the other superlatives, avoid those. They don't tell the decision maker anything. And so focus in on your metrics, focus in on your branded and trademark processes, and then focus in on your experience and your expertise. That's where your differentiators will come from. That's where someone will really be able to see what makes you special and what makes you different. Company data. This is where the decision maker can find all of the relevant information that they need about your company if they were to award you a contract, what they would need. So your UEI, your cage code, your SAM UEI and cage code, those are federal unique identifiers. State and local entities also have ID numbers or MBE statuses. So you put those here in the company data section. NAICS codes, the North American Industry Classification System, NAICS, NAICS. Again, another whole presentation. Actually, there's a presentation that has a few of those things in it that when we get the list, I'll make sure that everyone's who's on this call, the next time that presentation is up, it's about SAM, SBA, NAICS codes. It's kind of like an intro to the federal government space. I'll make sure that you guys receive the invite link for that stuff. But the NAICS codes are the way that the federal government describes the products and services that they buy. That's the coding system that they will use. It is a 6-number coding system. On your federal capability statement, you want no more than 3 NAICS codes. Narrow the focus. It should be narrow anyway. If you're doing the things that we talked about today, your capability statement will be narrow and focused to probably hopefully just one agency and a specific set of core competencies for that specific agency. There will only be so many codes that you can use to describe that business. And so you should have no more than 3 on your capability statement. PSC codes, product or service codes. It's a different coding system used by the federal government. It is much more specific. And if I could get up on my soapbox, which I don't have time to do, I would talk about how much I love PSC codes and how much I hate NAICS codes. But that's a session for another day. And actually, Eduardo, we're going to talk about that in the follow-on session in AI in October, I think. So we'll actually talk about NAICS codes and PSC codes and AI and all that good stuff. If you have PSC codes, those will be on the opportunities that you're looking at. And so you can identify them that way. You put those PSC codes on the capability statement as well. You should have a set of opportunities that you're looking at. Each one of those federal opportunities will have a NAICS code and will have a PSC code. The capability statement that you build for those opportunities should use those specific NAICS codes and those specific PSC codes and no more. If you have a GSA schedule, speaking to my federal contracting folks who are already in the space, GSA schedule, other contract vehicles, put those on there. If the decision maker who you're reaching out to with the capability statement can't use that contract vehicle, then you don't need to put it on there because they can't use it. So only the contract vehicles that are relevant to that agency and that decision maker. Here's where your socioeconomic certifications go. WASB, 8A, HubZone, SDVOSB, VOSB. If you have any of those certifications, that goes in your company data section. If you go to the SBA's website, Small Business Administration's website, they have things called digital icons now. Those digital icons are logos that are designed for vendors to use on their marketing materials to show that they are women-owned small businesses, 8A companies, hub zones, whichever socioeconomic designation you have. So go and grab those logos and put those on your capability statement as well. Don't put your tax information on here, your business's tax information. They don't need that until they're ready to award you a contract. So you don't need to put that on there. Financial capacity and stability. Specifically if your work requires bonding, that's important to include. if you feel comfortable with including your capacity in terms of your line of credit or the finances the money that you can provide in performing a federal project, you can include that on here as well, because decision makers are going to be using that in their evaluation. When you do business with the federal government, they award the contract to you first, you do the work, and then they pay you. And so first, you need to be able to do the contract before you get paid. And so they want to have some sense and understanding of what your financial status is. Last thing in your company data, you want to repeat your contact information, your name, title, email address, website, phone, all that good stuff. That's your company data section. This section is the section that doesn't change very much. It pretty much stays the same. The only thing that will change are the NAICS codes and the PSC codes. And then if you get new socioeconomic certifications or you get new contract vehicles, those will get updated. But for the most part, this section actually stays pretty solid for the most part. Graphic design. You want to be careful with graphic design in your capability statement. Remember that the purpose of this capability statement is to get a meeting with the decision maker, meaning that the content is the most important thing that's going to go in your capability statement. And so focus in on the content first. But once you've got the content where you want it to be, then you want to make it look like the rest of your marketing materials. So use the same font, the same colors as your website and as your logo. Make sure your logo is bold enough and big enough. Make sure it's at the top. I saw a capability statement a couple of weeks ago that the logo was down at the bottom of the page, and I was like, well, I've gotten through your whole capability statement and I didn't see your logo. So put the logo at the top of the capability statement so that it's one of the first things that they see, and make sure that it's big enough that they can see if the company name is in it, that they can read and they can see the company name. As far as styling goes, front page, one page for the sections that we've talked about today for your capability statement is what you want all of the information to be available for the decision maker to see. You want it to complement your website with the colors and with the correct fonts. Use the whole page top to bottom. Don't use like letterhead with the margins on the sides. You want to use the entire page all the way across. Keep pictures limited. You probably won't have much space for pictures if you provide all of the content that we've talked about. And you want to keep it in Word format, but save it as a PDF so that when you send it to decision makers, it's in PDF format. But then when you need to tweak it, you need to edit it each time you're looking at new opportunities, you can tweak and edit it in Microsoft Word to make it easy for yourself. Last few things, some tips for success before we get to Q&A. Always tailor. If you walk away with anything from this capability statement webinar besides the sections, it should be that your capability statement should be tailored and specific to opportunities and decision makers who you want to get in front of and build relationships with. That's probably the other big takeaway. The purpose of this capability statement is to get you a capability briefing with the decision maker who you are interested in doing business with. That's the purpose. Use their words, not yours. If they say custodial, use custodial. If they say janitorial, use janitorial. Use their keywords and phrases to describe your services. Don't use yours. Don't use Google's either. Don't use AI's either. Go to find specific opportunities in SAM and use those keywords that you find. You will have dozens, and I recommend creating a folder somewhere on your company server where you will have a library of capability statements. And eventually you'll find that you'll do business with similar agencies over and over again. And so you'll have just new versions that you get to update. You won't have to do them from scratch over and over and over again. Eventually you'll have a library, a repository to work from. So keep that somewhere on the company, in the company file system. Make sure when you send it, it's under 1 megabyte. And when you save it like just like this. Your company name, capability statement, _ who's the target, agency or company. That's how you want to send it to them so they know exactly what this thing is, who it's from, and who it's for. All right, we did all of these things. I'm going to put that slide up so that folks can get some handouts, and then I am going to hand it over to the team so that we can get Q&A going. I know I went a little bit over. My apologies, but I think we got through.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Well, I'll leave this up for a second here so that people, if they want to get the QR code here.
Yeah.
That's
And if you just
fine.
email us, I'll make sure to send all of that stuff too. And you know what, Eduardo, we'll get together. I'll send you all of this stuff so that you guys can send it out and follow up as well.
Yeah, anything that can also be just transformed into a link. We'll connect after this, and then I'll make sure for
Yeah.
the follow-up, I have everything that people need so that they can follow up, get the handouts,
Yeah.
any of this information or what have you. Um, all right, so if you want, you can go ahead and if you want to put up your
That's
yeah,
me.
yep, your
Follow me on
contact
LinkedIn.
information. Well, again, just reminder to everyone, we're gonna send this information out, so just know that you're going to get Kion's information, phone number,
Yes.
everything that you're seeing here, you'll get. But I wanted to bring it up real quick. So before we sort of move on, I'm gonna switch over to the other uh, presentation for a second. And if you want to take a quick break, feel free to do that. I'm just gonna do a couple of things. I'm gonna get to this exit poll real quick, and then I also want to get to our winner for our random
Oh, yeah.
drawing and everything today. So I'm going to do that. So first, let me just remind everyone, please, if you have not done so, and we've had quite a few already, submit questions to the Q&A window. It's a sort of last opportunity to put some in and see if we can get to them. I'm going to do the brief exit poll, reveal our winner, and then engage in the Q&A session. So you just hold on tight for a second, guys, and we'll get to that. I'm going to pull up this quick exit poll. It's two very basic questions. It's sort of more of an overall for today. So you should see it on your screen. It's basically, did you learn something new today? Let me know if you feel like you've learned something new. I know I learn something new every time I hear you guys go over these things, so it's great. And do you feel that this content covered will help you be more successful in this government contracting arena, both state and federal? So just let me know real quick, and then we'll sort of take those results, tabulate those results, and then very good. All right,
Oh,
that was
nice.
very quick. We had a good amount of people, 100% of those responding here definitely learned something new, which is
Good.
always a great thing. I appreciate that. And then about 95% feel that definitely this will be helpful for them moving forward in the government contracting arena, with about 5% maybe. So, okay. So that's perfect. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. That's a good way for us to kind of get a sense for, how are things going and how did all right, so what I want to do now, we talked about the price drawing again. The price itself was a edible capability statement template with a professional capability statement review from Target Gov. And so that's what the giveaway is. Again, random drawing. So real quick, just taking a look at everything here. The person that I have is Harish Patel with JPR Technology, right? So again, the winner for today, this edible capability statement template in the professional capability statement review, is going to be Harish Patel with JPR Technology. So for Harish Patel, I will follow up with you and Kion specific to this to make sure that you guys can communicate, and then Kion Brentford, he can then follow up with you with regards um, to the price. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you to Target Gov, honestly, for offering this opportunity. So again, Harish Patel, JPR Technology, our winner for today for the prize giveaway. And then we will do the follow-up so that you guys can communicate and move forward with that. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate that. All right, so sorry, let's go back here. All right, so for Q&A, so let's go ahead and bring back Kion, and then let's have Miss Allison Tavik, Director of Communications and Outreach. She will lead us through our Q&As today.
All right.
Well, good morning, Kion. Okay, that was power packed, and you're getting a lot of compliments from our guests today. I think some of the questions that we received kind of toward the beginning. You answer later on.
Okay,
We only
good.
have a few minutes, so I'm just going to focus on a few of the questions that were not covered. I'm going to remind
Okay.
you guys that you're going to get his complete slide deck. Eduardo will send you a follow-up email tomorrow, and you will be able to download that slide deck. And then in addition, some of the handouts and things that Kion has mentioned, those will get attached in the email tomorrow. So be on a lookout for that. But just a few concepts that I think questions came in that we want to cover before we run out of time today. But you talked about red flags, that some things can create a red flag. Would the decision maker ever communicate back to the provider that something was a red flag to them? So how would I know if I've done something wrong on my capability statement that caused a red flag for the person for the decision maker who's looking at it?
It depends on who the decision maker is who's looking at it that will probably give you feedback like that. If it is a small business person, remember earlier I talked about offices of small and disadvantaged business utilization. Those small business offices, kind of like the one that Maryland's put up that's putting on this event within the agency, those are friendly places. And so they may reach out after they see your capability statement and say, you should change this, you should update this, you should tweak this. If it is a contracting officer, an acquisition professional of that sort, someone who's a buyer within the federal government, probably not. They probably will just move on and find a new company.
Okay, very good. Okay, past performance and relevant experience. You spent a lot of time covering that. And I think a lot of the members in our audience are new to the business owners, but have had experience, right? So the theme of all of the questions that I'm getting from this is really that if you have tons of experience, tons of relevant experience, but not really any past performance because your company is new and you have not been under that company's name has not been paid for it. Can you still go out and compete in this market, or are you just absolutely out of the running?
You can still go out and compete in this market. Absolutely. Now, you'll have to be deliberate about the types of opportunities you pursue, right? I wouldn't say that you can go pursue a $1.5 million contract with no past performance, right? But can you go out and be a subcontractor to a large business? Absolutely. Can you win a credit card opportunity that's worth $15,000, $25,000? Those are called simplified acquisitions. That's something that you might be able to go after. And so you'll have to screen the types of opportunities and think about what will be the most effective positioning without any past performance. But yes, you can still jump in and you can still seek out decision makers and seek out decision maker meetings with your relevant experience.
Great. Well, I want to build actually on that comment then that you just made, if I heard you correctly. So we've really been doing this on the theme of using the capability statement to reach decision makers in the federal government. But if I do want to perform as a subcontractor, and therefore I need to, engage with prime contractors and have them be able to reflect, and for me be able to articulate out my performance, does a capability statement work in that type of arena too, as a subcontractor trying to convey experience to a prime contractor?
Absolutely. And I would use the same exact type of capability statement with all of the things that we just talked about to go after that prime as well. So one of the things you can do for the prime, this will be a little bit new. This wasn't in the presentation, but I'll give it to you now, is if you know who the prime contractor is who you want to do business with, you can go to usaspending.gov. That's where all of the federal contract awards get stored after they get awarded. You can go to usaspending.gov and you can search for that company that you want to do business with. And in USA Spending, it will show you all of the agencies who they've done business with. It'll show you all of the opportunities that they are already working on. And so then you can still do all of that tailoring and customizing that we talked about in the presentation for your capability statement, and then take that and then go to the customer, the prime contractor, and present to them that way.
Great, that's wonderful. Let's stick around that past performance category here. Past performance, you're recommending that you want to be detailed, but is there a hierarchy of how past performance should be put in there? Is it by date? Is it by scope of work? Is it by the custom, to the direct customer? So what would be the hierarchy for someone to articulate their past performance?
Let's build it. Number one, past performance with that agency that you're interested in doing business with, of you doing the same or similar services. Number one. Number two, past performance of you doing the same or similar services for a different government entity. So a different agency, a different office. Number three, you doing that past performance for a state government or a local government or municipality. Same or similar work. After that, your commercial past performance. So you doing the same or similar work with a commercial entity, another business, and subcontracting opportunities, same order.
Okay, so if I only have one of those three, then I'm just listing one.
Just list that one.
Just list that one. Okay. All right. So look, this is a lot of content, right? And a lot of big
Yes.
concepts that have to be distilled down into bullet points and small words. But are you absolutely really serious? They only get one page?
You get one page.
And only the front?
Only
Not
the
even
front
two-sided?
The backside, and when you guys come and talk to us and you reach out to us, I will tell you what goes on the backside of your federal capability statement, because it is very specifically designed for the Fed, and it's something that only Target Gov does. It's something that is unique to us. What it does is it takes advantage of what is called the simplified acquisition threshold. So the federal government can do smaller purchases. Those are those $10,000, $25,000 purchases I was talking about. So the federal government can do smaller purchases like that, and they can do it quick, and they can pay for it with a credit card. And the back page of your capability statement will provide them with offerings related to the front page underneath those different dollar thresholds. So that's why you want to save the back page. It gives you a way to sell to the customer right now, and for them to be able to buy from you right now with a credit card.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to close with this as the last question. And audience, we all know that Kion works for the company that created the capability statement, but we're repeatedly asking for a sample, a visual sample of what a good capability statement looks like. So my question, obviously, you're going to tell me that the ones produced at target.gov are the best ones to go and look at. But is there value? So here's the question. Is there value in our members doing a broad Google search to go look at capability statement samples, to have that visual construction behind all the content that you shared with them today?
I would be careful. Yes, there are a couple of versions that are out there. So if you go to the Apex accelerators across the federal government, they use our template. So if you go to the Apex accelerators, you will get the guide and the template from Target Gov to be able to see that. In terms of looking out there and Googling out there, what I would look for is some agencies have now started to provide small businesses with a guide, a template that their agency is looking for when they're looking at capability statements. So I know Health and Human Services, I know that they have one. They have a capability statement sample template. And so if you find resources on the internet, what I would say to do would be to vet those resources. And specifically, I would focus in on those resources that come from government entities. So if the government is endorsing it and they're saying that this is what your capability statement should look like, that's the example that I would go with. I wouldn't just go look at a bunch of people's capability statements, because lots of people do things wrong.
That is fantastic advice. Thank you very much. I think we're going to close it there, and we'll transition back over to Eduardo. I loved you mentioning Apex Accelerator. I believe they're among the resources that Eduardo is going to share as he closes us out.
Oh,
so Kion, again,
perfect.
thank you very much. To our audience, thanks for hanging with us. It's been a tremendous session. We're going to turn it back over to Eduardo.
Thanks, Allison. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Once again, just a quick thank you, of course, to Kion for being with us today. Ms. Allison Tavik for taking us through the Q&A session. I appreciate it. Great information today. Real quick, I know just to kind of get everybody in here before it turns into 12 o'clock, right? Couple of things I want to highlight that you're going to get in the follow-up email. You'll get this link. We do need your help to please take the survey for Maryland's disparity study. Very important. This is how we find out what challenges, what your experiences have been in the marketplace that allows us to then uphold these socioeconomic programs that are meant to help you be able to get into this government contracting arena. So it's very important that you go to a State of MD Disparity study.com. Again, I will provide this link for you, but I wanted to highlight we need your help. Take this survey and help us better understand how we can keep moving things forward. Talking about, Kion mentioned something in particular. We have the same here in the state of Maryland, program seals. Specific to any certification that you hold within the state of Maryland, you can now go to our website, GoMD, smallbiz.maryland.gov, and then you can pick up these downloadable seals that you can then place on any of your marketing materials to demonstrate that you actually have these certifications as part of your that aspect of what you do. So just keep that in mind. We have program seals as well that you can use, download, and then put them on your information. Another thing I want to highlight real quick is that as you begin to learn how to do business with the state of Maryland, we do have a series of videos and slide decks. You can go to our website to get these, but I'll include these direct links. Shows you how to go on to eMaryland Marketplace Advantage, the procurement forecast and how to navigate that, the Board of Public Works, and then how you can gather information from these resources and then put something together to be able to communicate with greater confidence with the people you're identifying to sort of help you make those connections, build those relationships. I'll just encourage everyone, continue to learn. Go to our T.I.P.S Small Business Webinar Series. Again, it's twice a month. The next one coming up will be this Thursday. I got a couple more here in August that I'll mention real quick, but they're free to attend. You register in advance. We always provide a way to download the slide deck afterwards and then access to video recording. Sorry about that. So I'll include the playlist link as well in the information you're going to get so that you can get to those any one of these videos that have been recorded about these presentations so that you can see those. So I'll include that in the information. The upcoming, again, this Thursday, the next one will be doing business with the state of Maryland. So then you'll actually hear from Ms. Allison Tabby. She's going to cover sort of a general overview of how do you do business with the state of Maryland. So she'll cover many points with that. If you haven't registered, please do so. We'd like to have you guys. And then in August 27th, we're going to have prime contracting in Maryland Small Business Reserve Program, so specific to that. And then the Thursday class, August 29th, is actually covering cash flow management and projection. So I have another guest come in to talk about that. So make sure that you keep an eye out for these things. Registration for the two classes in August will come out about 3 weeks in advance. And then talking about partners, Kion mentioned, I'm going to include actually Maryland Apex Accelerators, formerly PTAC. I'll include their link and stuff so you can go to their website if you want to look up information about capability statements or anything like that. As mentioned, Mr. Branford mentioned, they use the model that Target Gov sort of created, so that's helpful. And then other resources, all of these, again, I'm including all of this information for you guys so you can take that with you. And then finally, please make sure you follow us, stay in contact with us, keep up with us through Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as X, to just keep up with the things that we're offering and providing, including announcements about upcoming events, things of that nature, as well as other tips and things that you can utilize. So just stay in contact with us, follow us. Would like to have you. So we appreciate that. All right, with that, we're here a little bit over 12. I do appreciate, once again, final thank you to Mr. Kion Brentford with Target Gov, Ms. Allison Tavik, Ms. Tanita Johnson, who's been working behind the scenes to help us out. And then lastly, but not least, Thank you to all of you for being with us today. We appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see many of you guys on Thursday and in August as well. And with that, thank you guys very much. Have an awesome day, and we appreciate it. Thank you.